Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and thank you if you have. And welcome to the channel if this is your first time. I'm Vicki. I'm an intuitive medium who's a licensed psychotherapist and also a neurodivergent person. So this is not your typical tarot, and there's lots of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is that I am not neurotypical, and so I can kind of see things through a different lens, and sometimes the tarot reflects that. But it's also a place where we can remember who we really are. And I want to talk about that today because this world we're living in right now, the times that we're living in, are so freaking challenging. You know that as well as I do. Whether you're struggling with financial stress, you're worried about your future, you don't know how to make plans under these circumstances, where to go, what to do, just dealing with the many horrors that are happening around the world. And hello, Emma. If you hear Emma, that's my girl, wants to come up on my lap, but she can't find a clear path. And doesn't that sound familiar, right? We want some comfort. We want some security, but finding a clear path in these times is really hard. Thank you, Emma, for reminding us of that. Sometimes she just needs a boost. You coming, girly girl? She's trying to find the right way up. Anyway, sorry for that little diversion, but it's true, right? We're just looking for comfort. We're looking for security. We're looking for some love and something we can settle into and feel okay. But these times are really, really tough. Sorry, I had to stop the recording for a second so you know who could come up. She was just crying. And the chair just, it wasn't helping her to come up or giving her a good way to get here. And boy, Emma, you just gave us some an illustration of what we're all going through, right? This sense of I know what I want and where I need to be and where I want to be, or what I want things to look like and feel like, but I can't find how to get there right now. And if that sounds familiar, please hit the like button and share below if that's what you're struggling with too. But I thought we could take a look at that today in the cards. What do you think, Em? Good idea? Thought we could take a look at that today in the cards. And part of it, what's coming to me and what has been coming to me frequently through this, is a question. And the question is, how can we find our way? How can we remember who we are? Because we can get lost in that, right? And how, let me rephrase. Two people this week, it came up in two different conversations with two different people about the way they were putting it, and the way we were talking about it was remembering who we are, but not letting these times that we live in take away our sparkle. I'm a 90-day fiance watcher. It's my guilty pleasure. I'm not gonna lie, but there's a person on one of the shows who's from Boston, and he calls one of the other persons Spackles, sparkle, right? Spackles. So how do we remember our spackle and acknowledge our spackles in this time as we're going through such heavy and really difficult and dark times? How do we find our way back to that lap of comfort? What does that look like? And one of the things I'm going to check into with the cards that's coming to me, remember I'm a medium and an intuitive person, so these things come out as we're talking. And what I'm hearing and what I'm getting is the importance of remembering a few things. Number one, that, one of the facts that I understand, that I believe in, and it's been my experience, is that we come into this lifetime choosing these paths. We chose this time to come in for whatever reason, whether it's to help other people, whether it's to right an imbalance rather, in terms of our karma, to right some wrongs in some sense, just to have the experience of being here now. Who knows? There's so many reasons we come in to different lifetimes. And so that's one thing to remember that can, and it's not to blame the victim, like, oh, I chose this, so I deserve all the bad things. No, it's not about that. It's more about, okay, I had some say in this, and perhaps the path, and this is where I'm going for this reading, perhaps what the focus might be, at least for today, is to remember perhaps or get in touch with what are we learning as we're going through this. It's how spirit works. It's how divine love works, always for love, not out of punishment or anything dark. It's always for loving intent. But what am I learning through this process during this lifetime that I've somehow chosen, right? And what's my takeaway here? And sometimes that can help us find our path and find our way back to that comfortable lap where Emma is now purring on mine, aren't you, Em? She looks up at me like, hello, Mama. Yes, I am. I'm purring in your lap. My baby girl. Okay, so that's what we're going to take a look at. All right, Spackles. She's like, do not rename me, please. I will not tolerate that. All right, let's take a look. I don't know how I'm going to throw these cards with her on my lap. I might take a little break for cuddling and then we'll kind of reposition, but I'll give it a try. Let's see what we can do. All right, here we are. She's still on my lap. I did not stop the tape, so whoops, I hit the mic, of course, because it wouldn't be a Vicky recording without her hitting the mic, would it be? Okay, let's take a look. Where do we want to start? Let's start with how about just the Rider-Waite? We'll start with a basic. I'm kind of off right now because I was just outside on my lunchtime. I have kind of an extended lunchtime before I see another client today. And I was in the garden because I've been wanting to get out there and weed, and I planted some more lettuce, some fresh new growth coming in here so that, because I don't want the explosive diarrhea lettuce, if you know what I mean. If you know, you know. So I'm a little, as my mom used to say, who's now in spirit, I'm a little discombobulated. It's one of my favorite words now because she used it one time. Or a few times. Let's get started. Ooh, that was a loud one. I'm grounding. I clothe myself in a robe of white light composed of the love, the power, and the wisdom of the divine, not only for my own protection, but so that all others who see it or come in contact with it will be brought to the divine and healed. Calling in our guides and ascended masters and our highest, most loving spirit family to walk us through this reading today and to remind us of what we might be learning as we're going through these troubled times in the world. We just had a couple fall over. They kind of popped over. I don't usually pay attention, but I'm going to right now. We've got the Six of Swords. We've got the Knight of Wands. There's too many to even look at. Nope, not going to do it. There's too many, but I like the first one. We're kind of moving through these troubled times and getting to better times ahead, which we have to have that hope, right? We have to maintain that hope. I had to get my glasses, so here we are. Let's get started on the reading. Thanks for being patient with me and my ADHD brain. All right, and as I shuffle, okay, it's been confusing time, and it's been a very anxious time and a tough time for us. We've been feeling embattled, for sure. You know, when I do these readings, it's funny, Spirit kind of almost always gives me my first row is like, we hear you, baby. We hear you. That's kind of how my spirit guides talk to me sometimes. Yeah, you're not wrong. We get it. You think this is news to us in a way? You know, it's like, yeah, we feel you. It's hard. But I love that because it's validation that we're in the right reading, right? So, you know, if you've seen me before, you know I sometimes argue with my spirit guides and my spirit family. And I swear there's times I say to them, how could you let me decide to come here now? How did you let me make this decision? Friends don't do that to each other. And okay, Spirit's already telling us, it may feel like you have a lot of decisions, but this Two of Swords card also means, hey, take the blindfold off. There are things here that you're not seeing or not paying attention to that we want you to see, or that it might be a good opportunity for you to see. And here's the balancing again. Here's that here's two options. And I'm getting from Spirit that one option is to look at it in the earthly way, right? That's one way that we can be trying to figure this time out and how we're moving forward. The other option, Spirit's telling me, is to look at the gifts and the benefits that we're getting spiritually from living in this time, even if we're not sure what they are. And in the background of this card, you can see there are boats that are riding out the rough waves. And to remember that we always are doing that spiritually. At the spiritual level, we're always riding out the waves. We're kind of going through this cycle in this lifetime because that's what we chose. And there is celebration behind that. Spirit's reminding us that everything is happening for some, not to be Pollyanna at all, that even through the darkness and the really difficult times, oh, Emma's had enough. See that? Once you have your soft space to land and you know that you're safe and you're okay, and you know that you got your loving in, you can also move on and kind of go on to other things. And Spirit's reminding us of that too, that we can celebrate from this. And here's Spirit right there. This is my card for spiritual things, for the higher spiritual plane, right? It can be the more institutional religions kind of card. It can be that, or government, that kind of thing. In my readings, when I'm using my spiritual and neurodivergent lens, it's always, and Spirit and I have an agreement that this is our Spirit card. And so they're just acknowledging that to take this perspective, the spiritual perspective, as we balance out earthly versus spirit, and we're choosing to focus on that instead, is where we can find our joy. And even through this, and in fact, this came out reverse, so I'm going to keep it. We can let go of the struggles in some ways. We can feel like the struggles are put in a different light, a different perspective, and they don't feel quite as big, right? And my guys also joke with me, and I just heard it also can mean let go of the fight, Vic. Stop fighting with us. I hear you. You're not wrong. I try not to argue with Spirit. It's fun. They know who I am. I always give in the end. That's just who I am. All right, let's get the second row here. All right. We have more gifts than we know we're being offered. A danger in these times is that we can have our arms folded, and Emma could have been coming all around my chair and just pouting around my chair and not asking for what she needed, which was to be helped up into the chair because she couldn't find a way up. She didn't give up on the gift that she knew was there. This gift of mama. I'm not saying it like that. It's just a comfort thing for her, right? And she didn't give up on that by just pouting and saying, no, I don't want this gift after all, because I didn't get it the way I wanted it, right? So remember this as we're going through these times. And we've got a chance to walk away. And Spirit's reminding us, don't walk away from the gifts that actually are there. That's one of the challenges of this card, right? Is we've got these cups all here. We can't really tell if they're empty or full, but we're walking away from them. Okay. I'm also picking up on the eclipse energy that's happening right now. It's a lunar eclipse that's happening in 2 days, I think 3 days from when I'm recording this. I'm recording on August 25th. So if you're in Europe or other time zones, it's in 2 days. In the US, it's in 3 days. And this is a Piscean lunar eclipse. And we see a lot of cups here already. So that's, that emotional state is that water fluid Piscean energy. So it's an emotional time for many of us. And we can be feeling these things more intensely right now because that eclipse is approaching us. We're in the shadow period right now, so many of us are feeling that. And many of us have been feeling like we've been left out in the cold. A lot of us are feeling like Emma would have felt had I not picked her up. Naturally, right? But this is where Spirit reminds us that Our self-nurturing comes in. We nurture you, my friends in this community. I know you do this. You do this, Empress, to everybody else. You take care of everyone else. You nurture everyone else. You grow the things like me out in the garden today. I planted 6 heads of lettuce today. Will I eat 6 heads of lettuce myself? No. But, I will share it with others because I know I can. I've got another neighbor who gardens and we exchange all the time. I've got another set of neighbors who are wonderful. The couple who's a little older lives next door. They love it when I bring things over to them. I do this too. Spirit's reminding us, do this for yourself. Okay? And that might mean, I'm just saying, like Emma was advocating for herself to get what she wanted. She's back, by the way, but she's over in another part of the room just hanging out. Okay? It could mean advocating for yourself, but it can also mean just remembering to take care of yourself differently and remembering who you are. So Spirit, we hear that you are hearing us. You know our situation and you're kind of calling us out. I get it. And telling us what to avoid. I'm hoping as we move through, Spirit saying, be patient, Vic. Okay, we get it, but what do we do? That's so me and my impatient ADHD brain, even in tarot, going, come on, tell us what to do. Spirit saying, be patient. We're getting you there. We're getting you there. Okay, Spirit, I trust you. Right? Okay, holding tight to the things that we treasure. And that is not in the way that is greedy, right? Because I just talked about how I give, and so do you. I know you do. But it's also really treasuring the things that are the people we're close to, the things that matter to us, is how we find the gifts in these times. Thank you, Spirit. How do we find the gifts in these times? That sometimes when we're going through these really terrible times that are really difficult, that we turn to Spirit. We let go of the fighting. In all honesty and being serious, we let go of the arguments about things, trying to prove our point being correct or why other people are so wrong. And even if that's correct, if that's true and is frustrating, to kind of take some time, part of nurturing ourselves is letting that go and turning and holding close the things that we nurture and love. Like me out in the garden, Emma coming up on my lap, whatever it is for you. This is that lunar Pisces eclipse that's coming in. It's clear as a bell. Okay. And it's reminding us this is a good time to do this. The energy is really strong right now. The force is strong. But in all honesty, it really is. And I love that it's right here after this one. It kind of almost adds to this. It layers into this one. The moon energy is here. And by doing this, by turning to the things that in the people and the experiences that we love and adore and that we hold close, Spirit saying it can uncover the things that we weren't aware of before. It can solve some of those mysteries. Why am I here? If we turn into that and we move into that, why am I here during this time? Maybe it's to help other people. Maybe it's to take care of children or to raise children or to be a caregiver for seniors that need it or whatever that looks like. Or creating things that are really cool and other people get enjoyment from, whatever that looks like. And it can be working with other people. So coming into a community. Look, when we went through this time in these past, however many years, I can't even count because as soon as I come up with a number, it's further back than that. But we've had an opportunity, I guess since 2020, since COVID, to do things differently and to connect with people in different ways. In many ways, it's like this online in community. It can be in tighter knit circles or choosing our people differently. And so Spirit's saying, don't forget that that's an opportunity as well, because then our outcome is this lovely 10 of Cups, right? And having a new journey, starting a new way of doing things. And I love that because once you do make that switch, it's almost like there's no going back to the old way of thinking. My cat hair all over me, right? But it's true. When we do make that shift into saying, okay, wait a minute, these times are hard. We're really struggling. Why on earth would I choose to be here now? And how do I find any gifts? And that's I know, a dark statement because not everybody's in that place all the time, but there are moments, right? how do I find gifts in these really difficult times and not sound like Pollyanna and like I'm trying to gaslight myself into thinking everything's okay? That is not the answer. That is not what anybody's even suggesting. Spirit starts with this confirmation for a reason. So we're not gaslighting ourselves to say, yeah, no shit, this is hard times. And, and, and don't discount that there's wonderful things. Look under, don't walk away from things that are really actually very important and good for us, right? All of that, all those clarifiers that came up later. Spirit saying, don't discount that stuff, because that's the path to remembering who you are and finding your path, starting this new way of looking at things. Because once we do that, you can't go back, like I said. You know, my daughter, I'm going to do some clarifiers real quick. You know, my daughter is the adult now daughter, well into adulthood. She's 26 next month, of a therapist and intuitive medium. She's intuitive herself. And, you know, I raised her with emotional intelligence, let's just say, right? And part of that was reframing things for herself and teaching her how to reframe something so she can find what's under this. Okay, we're feeling this way, but also like, what does spirit have to say about this? Or what's underneath it for you? What's really going on under there? And how do we get to that? Because that's what's really most important, and how we remember who we are. And so she now calls it, you know, positive thinking brain rot. And she says it, you know, jokingly, because it's not that at all. But she, you know, she says it when she does it for herself. Look at that. It's automatic now. I go to look at all this shit in the world, but, you know, I'm really finding joy in doing this with this person, or, you know, developing this skill, or my writing is really coming along, or whatever that looks like. So I want you to think about that in your own life, okay? As we do the clarifiers here. Where are those gifts for you that even though this shit is happening everywhere, underneath it, but what else is true here? And that's what Spirit's telling us to do in this reading, is what else is true? What else? Not to deny it, not to gaslight or go to, you know, happy, happy, joy, joy, but what else is true? And it actually, you know, it can also be that you're making some choices that aren't good for you. We're going to find out if there's some more. Maybe that's what's underneath it sometimes. And that can also be positive, that we can say, okay, it's time to make some different choices for myself. Let's find out. I just got that in. So let's see if that's one of the clarifiers that comes through. This just in. I sound like Aaron Parnas, right? Breaking news. Although now it's all breaking. I don't think he even does that anymore. He got tired of saying breaking news, I think. All right, Spirit, help us to be specific and clear about how do we find our gifts in these times? How do we even do that? What does it look like? Give us some hints of what some people are going through right now. What are the gifts they can be looking at? Oh, it's a lot of questions, I know, but Spirit's used to that from me. They know what I'm asking for. All right. The Two of Swords, please. Give us clarifiers on this Two of Swords. Okay. Then we have the Ten of Swords. All right. So by uncovering, by really taking a look at the gifts that are here, we can kind of let some things go. Is there anything in your life you need to let go of that is not serving you? It's one way. Spirit's saying we can get encumbered. We can fail to see, be unable, not a failure, but be unable to see the gifts in our lives because we're blocked by things that we're holding on to that are no longer serving us. Thank you, Spirit. Tell us more about. Actually, I'm going to get one more on this Ten of Swords. They said one more. Yeah, because there's love there for you. It's moving into your love space. So is there something in your life that's keeping you from fully embracing and being that loving energy person? Is there something that's stressing you out so much that you're not yourself? What does that look like? Yeah, is it money? Is it resources? Yeah. Thank you, Spirit. All right, so let's look at that Two of Pentacles. Balancing the earthly versus the spiritual is what we were looking at. Tell us more about this card. Give us some advice on this balancing out. Yeah, we're in the anxiety energy, sleeplessness. So if you're struggling with your sleep, Spirit sees that. And one thing that we're looking for is to be able to balance out that sleep. That's the earthly and the spiritual combined, right? Because through sleep we can also get messages from Spirit, and we can feel more energized to live through our day, right? So whatever that looks like for you, some people try magnesia. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I don't play one, so don't take medical advice. Check it out from your doctor first. But people have all kinds of ways of dealing with sleep and promoting sleep for yourself. So kind of do a deep dive on that if that's you. And if it's because you're anxious thinking about all the things, remember, thinking about it at night before you go to bed is not going to solve it. It's only going to make things worse because you're not sleeping. So if you can do some work in that area to tell yourself this is not helpful, and then move to something else. Some people use like audiobooks or music or sleep sounds or whatever to get you into a space of not thinking so much at night. Yeah, because we can feel oh, I just heard, okay, some people have young babies or children, so if that's you, that's part of what's keeping you up. Okay, I got it. I got it. And so that's bothering you and that's interfering with your balance. But I was feeling too, like some people are feeling very nostalgic, like we're missing those old times when things were just easier. I get it. And we've seen a lot of changes. If you're like me and kind of long in the tooth, as they say, been around a while, we've seen a lot of changes. And there's some grief that comes with that too, for sure. All right, tell us more about this Three of Cups. I like this Three of Cups in particular because it's got fall energy to it. I don't know if you see that, but it's got some fall energy to it with the pumpkins and the fruit on the ground and that kind of thing. And it makes me feel hopeful for the change of seasons and maybe any changes that are coming in the fall, because we've had a lot of choices to make and decisions to make in life, and it can feel overwhelming. We have to remember that there's some partnerships in our lives that can be helpful, as we rely on other people if you need to make those decisions and choices, Spirit's saying, because it's through that we get to the celebratory energy. So if you're struggling with making decisions around how do we let those things go, or how do we get through these financial times, it can be really scary to talk to other people about that, or shameful or whatever. Trust me, almost everybody I know is going through that right now, me included. Finances are tough right now for a lot of folks. Things are just so much more expensive. Not your fault. All right, Hierophant, tell us more about this. How does this Hierophant energy manifest for us in finding the gifts in the world, in our experience right now? Yeah, we can celebrate our own fiery selves. So part of using our spiritual path, like what you're doing right now, leads to a sense of, oh, I remember this. I remember who I am, and I can celebrate that. And then remember, the wands is also action. So I can also then move through the world and act because I know who I really am spiritually. And I can put this other stuff in its place and live in my spiritual energy. I love that. I think it's beautiful. And that's how it's easier to make plans. Okay, so what could that look like? It could look like I choose to not worry as much about things I can't control. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to do some thought stopping, or I'm going to distract myself into something positive. Or I can pray, or I can do a meditation to ground myself, or whatever. And then Spirit's saying through that is how we can then look to the future, how we can have more hope for the future. Letting go of these arguments is another thing that Spirit wants us to know, to find our comfort in the peace that comes with that, to live in the comfort of peace because we're no longer choosing to argue. And then we have the Emperor upside down, which is letting go of control. Okay. One of those things, we're tempted to argue with everybody about the political things or their stance or how could you believe XYZ or whatever it is. We're not changing anybody's mind doing that. We're just getting out of our peace. Spirit's saying, stay in your peace, and that's how you're going to find your gifts in this. So let's take a look now, please, at the Four of Cups. I got a new method. You see, I'm just moving them a little bit and then resetting them because I keep making a mess of them. I'm going to try something a little different. We're on this one. Four of Cups. Tell us more about this Four of Cups energy, please. Yay. The wish card. The hopes, the dreams, the happy, happy sunlight on our face can come if we just turn to look at those gifts that are in our path and that we already have. Again, not gaslighting, it's looking for and finding them. Being intentional. That's how we change the cycle. And it's also how we change the world, Spirit saying, because by doing that, we raise the vibration, the collective vibration. It lifts it. People don't realize how much that one act of you raising your own spiritual vibration impacts the collective. It impacts all of us. And again, this is about just choosing to seek the light, stay in your own light, and to do these things that remember who you really are as we move through this time. And it really does affect the entire collective because we are all connected and one. We are one energy. I kind of always equate it to this. I learned it when I was like 20. Somebody else explained it to me this way as well. Imagine like a string of lights, right? You've got the light where all the current runs through, and then you've got little strings coming down, little strings coming down from that main line, and then lights at the bottom, all different colored lights, right? And that each one of those lights represents us, but we're all connected to the divine source, all getting that same power. And there's no way you can take this little light bulb and say it's separate from this little light bulb over here just because I'm blue and that one's green. We're not different. We're connected totally through this same course of energy. My energy is their energy. And that's how we keep that balance. We raise the vibration by doing it ourselves, for ourselves. And we go, there's just the Spirit saying, exactly, stay in that emotional connectedness with the Queen of Cups energy, right? And then we move into the King of Wands energy, which I always see as living out the thing, living out the essence of this card. How do we act on it? We take actions by staying in our light, living it out now, day to day to day to day, focusing on it intentionally. Tell us more about this Five of Pentacles, please. This feeling left out in the cold. Yeah, waiting for your ship to come in kind of a thing because of all these damn struggles that are happening. How do we find the gift in this? That's a tough one. Spirit, how do we find... Allow love to come in? I don't know what that is. Okay, Spirit's showing me that... Okay. I'm like, what? I don't understand how the Knight of Cups, relates as a clarifier to this Five of Pentacles, the Three of Wands, knowing it's really hard, and the Five of Wands having all these struggles and arguments and competition and all of this. And then they go, okay, well, here's how. Knight of Cups. I'm like, what? Trust me, this is how my intuition sometimes works when I do cards, because I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then Spirit says, give it a minute. Give it a minute. And let me tell you. What I get from Spirit is that when we're in this energy that's very valid and real, sometimes any offer of positivity, of love, of emotionality, of positive, loving emotions can feel manipulative. it can feel like bullshit. But when I see the Knight of Cups, sometimes I'm like, yeah, look at this dude. Just look at him. He's got the flowers. He's comes here with humility. His hat's in his hand, and he's looking all, all cool. When he's all inked up and everything, he's got the love letter here. He's got all this here. And even his horse is over here going, yeah, baby, look at me. Right? And to me, many times this comes off as being very sly and manipulative. It's not the typical, this is why it's not the typical tarot. It's not always the typical tarot reading of this, but it's mine. It is what it is. And it's important to remember that looking at the positive when all this shit is happening in our lives is not gaslighting ourselves. It's not a manipulation. It's very real and valid. And it's a real offer to look at something differently. Okay? Thank you, Spirit, because I was very confused. Tell us more about the Empress, please. So Spirit's saying, give it a chance. Just give it a chance. And I can hear myself even in times going, that's not going to help me right now. How's that going to help me pay the bills? Well, it's not. But in the methods that you handle that, you will find the love. You will find the joy. You will find the lessons. Example, maybe we don't do as many things that cost money, and we find things that are free, and we spend time with the people we love doing things that are free. That's how we allow the love vibration to come in despite all of that. And then does it make it easier? Well, maybe we can be a little happier doing it. We don't feel as hopeless or alone. Okay, that's Spirit showing us that this is what they're trying to show us, how to do it. Thank you, Spirit. Tell us about this Empress, please. Give us more about the Empress. Our little love bugs in this community, they're helping everybody else, doing everything for everybody else. What do you want us to know? Yeah, Page of Wands. It's time to celebrate yourself too. Celebrate yourself. Let the heartache go. Okay. Be kind to yourself. That's how we take care of it. Let go of anyone who's harmed you, anybody who's hurt you. Just let it go for now. It's not saying be a doormat. They're saying be loving towards yourself in these energies as you move through. We know you've worked hard. You've sown a lot of seeds. Nurture yourself through this. That's what Spirit's saying. I mean, the beginning and the end of these clarifiers. The Empress nurturing everybody else. Nurture yourself. These are all your gifts that you have here. All these are your own gifts. Find those. Remember them. Nurture them. Okay? Tell us about this Four of Pentacles, please, Spirit. When I look at this card, he's glowing. I don't know if you see it, but it's almost like you could see his aura. Can you see it? Like, here we go. I don't know if you could see that. It's almost like his aura is really strong. And sometimes I see that in cards and it's like, wow, look at that. And it goes away. It kind of comes in and out. But this one is kind of I'm feeling a golden aura. And it's feeling like by embracing the things that you love is how you find your highest energy. The Knight of Pentacles is slow and steady. So it's taking care of the things that you love, nurturing what you love, even if it's yourself. Love and nurturing is the slow and steady method of getting there, and it will bring you new ideas and truth. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Spirit. Remember back here we were talking about there's a different way to look at it? Like I talked about with my daughter, what do we look at? Sometimes it's just another truth. Both things can be true. We say that in therapy all the time. Two things can be true. I mock myself when I say it. But yeah, shit can be happening, but there's also some beautiful truth about spirit and what's important. And how do you find your joy? How do you connect with the people you love? Right? And it's the end of again, it's a change. Then you can find a change in your luck or the way things are coming through. Tell us more about this moon. Maybe this is the eclipse, please. Is it the moon energy? Yeah, remember through the moon energy. I love this because both are kind of mysterious, right? The magician energy tells us we have every tool that we need in the Rider Waite. Is to actually all the tools are on the table, right? Or around the magician. And the magician here is saying you have all the tools that you need. You have the magic to manifest whatever you want it to be by looking underneath, by looking at what other possible things you're learning. What are the gifts I'm getting in this process? What are the things I'm learning through this process? Then you can manifest more. For example, one of the gifts during COVID that I learned was I had a mom who was in her 80s at that point who needed my help, and she was living with us and she was at risk. And this is controversial for some people. Okay, so be it. Turn it off if you don't want to hear it. I had a daughter who has autoimmune chronic illness issues, and she was at risk. And I decided to not continue to do the work I was doing because I was put in a high risk position as a teacher at the time, to change to work back from home again or to work from home so that I could be with them. That was a gift in the darkness of COVID, right? I mean, for many people, we find gifts in the weirdest, darkest places. For me, that was a beautiful time. That's what was under it. And what was under it was taking care of the people that I love and making sure that they were safe. What did I do from there? I manifested. How do I do more of this? How do I do what I really love to do? And I took care of them by being at home and working from home. I went back into doing therapy, which I've done since God was 3. I just took a detour to teach while my kid was in school, right? Because look, so that they don't have to suffer. I love that. Thank you, Spirit. They didn't have to suffer, and neither did I. You find your gifts and the lessons learned. For me, that lesson was that time is over. Move to the next thing. Tell us more about this 3 of Pentacles, please. Working in conjunction with other folks. Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of like that energy of I'm letting go of the things that I don't need anymore. It doesn't do anything for me anymore. It can feel sad. It can feel like a grief by letting go and choosing to take those blindfolds off, like we said in the very beginning, the 2 of Swords energy coming up again, choosing to look at it a different way and look at how well it can grow, right? And we can give and receive our energy differently that way when we're dealing with other people. That by doing these things for ourselves, the energy balances, the karma balances. The giving and receiving becomes more equitable. Tell us about this 10 of Cups energy. Yeah, and we lose then, in the end, we lose that sense of feeling, what's the word I'm looking for? Unsatisfied. That feeling goes away. We can let go of that and be very satisfied because we've chosen that different viewpoint. We've seen it a different way. Yeah, and we've got change coming in, rebirth. Love it. Which leads exactly to the Fool. This rebirth, a new path that we're on, right? I love it. The Empress is upside down, right? And in some ways, we're no longer doing for everyone else. We're doing for ourselves and them at the same time. It balances out that energy. And I love, again, we're going from what feels like the lunar energy, the spirit energy, this energy that's outside of us, back to the earthly energy. We're balancing that out. We're knowing that this earthly energy, I put it the wrong, earthly energy is real. These struggles, this crap we're going through down here, it's very real. Earthly energy. But we're allowing spirit to wash over us. We're allowing this fluidity, this emotion, this love to wash over us and to take energy in from spirit and remember why we're doing this. What is it that we're going through right now that spirit has to teach us about? Where are the gifts in this time? What does it look like for you? I love that. And underneath the deck is the Nine of Pentacles. Reminding us that we do have everything we need here. Sometimes it's just reaching for that pure joy, that benefit that we have. Reaching for the things, the gifts that we do have. It's all there for us. Just reaching for it. I'm going to do a fun one just to go with it. So maybe give you some hints. I might not know anything about what they mean, but to you they might. I'm going to do a Kipper deck. I haven't done a Kipper deck in ages. So these might be some clues because I'm asking Spirit, just give us some more concrete clues. Kipper tends to be a little more concrete. Aren't they cute, the little Kipper deck? Oh, it's a little, the little monkey. All right. All right, here we go. I'm going to pull 3 Kipper deck cards and see if one of them's for you, if it hits for you. Now I'm not going to do you choose. I'm just going to pick them. So, receiving a gift. Spirit saying, okay. You've all got gifts coming in. Just like it's Christmas. So receiving a gift. Let's see how these play out for you. If any of these come true for you or are actually, you know what? All right. Was there a short illness? Maybe somebody's been through a short illness recently. Could be talking about when we were talking about COVID even, but short illness. Look at all the cats. One. That looks almost like a wild cat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lots of cats. Is that you? Okay, and court person is somebody going through a judgment of some sort. And sometimes that, you know, maybe that means on the other side there's some good stuff coming. I don't know. Okay. Spirit's telling me to pull 2 more. I don't know why, but there's 2 more. Maybe you need a clarifier or something, so I'm going to listen and do that. This one says, a rich girl. Cool. Also with a cat. There's cats in all of these, aren't there? Nope, not all. Rich girl. And a journey. A journey. All right. Cool, cool. Let's see if those hit for anybody. I hope you like this reading. Take good care of yourself as you go through this time. See if you can find your what you're learning through this. It's sometimes hard in the moment. It's very hard in the moment. I'm not gonna lie. It's very hard in the moment to figure out what good is coming through this. So you just turn back into yourself, into the people around you, into what's important to you, and focus on that as you kind of go through it. And that's when the answers can sometimes come, in hindsight or as you're moving through it. But Spirit's saying the important thing is the turning toward what's important to you, turning toward what you value. And that's how you find the joy, you find the purpose, is turning toward what you value and following that path. I hope this helps. And I love you very much. Leave a like. You know all the things to do. Ding, ding, ring the bell, make a comment, hit the like, whatever you like to do, share. And I hope to see you again soon. I'm going to clean this mess up, and I will see you soon. Bye. Don't forget who you really are. Okay?